Hope everybody's doing well. Can everybody hear me? We're good?
Yes, sir.
All right. Uh, First order of business, because we've got a few things to cover this evening. First order of business, looks like we do have a quorum. Look at the list that I've got on my computer. Via roll call, I'm going to ask for everybody to say present or something like that, just to make sure we're all here. A couple of people will not be here this evening that I'm already aware of. Mary Miskovitz will not be attending. Josh Morse just notified me he is triple booked this evening. He will not. And Linda Holt has also notified me she will not be attending this evening.
Okay.
So starting off, Paul Guthrie,
Present.
Mark,
Present.
and Mark, welcome aboard. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much for
Welcome.
volunteering for this illustrious committee. You will enjoy it. Jack McKean.
Yes.
Yeah. Is Marianne Bassett on? Yep, there you are. Marianne? Oh, I
Kids.
see her there. Deb Rousseau.
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you. And then here, Josh is out. And Shields not attending. Let's see, Amy?
I'm present.
All right, thank you. And Stephanie
I am present.
are here. And Krista Silva, you are here, it looks like.
I'm here.
And Lindsay McClunchy? No? Yes? I did not see her.
Hmm.
All right, why don't we verify the quorum? Let's do the next best thing we can do to make things legal here. This is an open meeting of the Senior Center Committee is being conducted, well, via Zoom. It normally says in person, but via Zoom. Speakers on the agenda may be participating remotely, and the chair may allow hold on.
Comments.
Right, public comment, sorry, after the agenda is completed. If a member of the public wishes to speak, please raise your hand in the meeting room or on your computer. And when called upon, please state your name for meeting minutes. The Senior Center Committee would welcome public comments. And if there is action that is required by the committee, the clerk will add the matter as appropriate to the forthcoming agenda. Depending upon the comment, the committee may, if they are able to, within the confines of the open meeting law, respond with information as opposed to needing to deliberate on the matter. Please note that while an option for remote attendance and/or participation is being provided as a courtesy to the public, the meeting will not be suspended or terminated if technological problems interrupt the virtual broadcast to individual attendees unless otherwise required by law. Accordingly, please be aware that other folks may be able to see you. So please take care not to screen share your computer. Anything you broadcast may be captured by the recording. That's it. And sorry, the reading was a little mixed up since we're not doing a remote and we're doing 100% remote. Anyway, first item, we've called order. First item on the agenda is to review the minutes of the May 16th meeting. And I believe you had received those minutes, and I sent them out to everybody again I don't know, Sunday or Monday, Tuesday maybe. Has everybody had time to look them over?
Yep.
Are there any comments? And then
No.
If there are none, I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
So
I make a
moved.
motion to approve the minutes of the May 16th meeting.
Thank you, Deb.
You're welcome. Any second?
Second.
Thanks,
Okay.
Jack. Okay, via roll call for approval. Oh, any discussion? I don't think. I meant to ask that afterwards. I don't see or hear anything. Paul,
Yes, accept them.
thank you. Well, Mark, you just joined us, so you probably didn't review them, so we'll run right by you. Jack,
Yes.
Mary Ann,
Yes.
Deb,
Yes.
I'm a yes. Josh is not here. Dan is not here. Amy,
Yes.
Stephanie,
Yes.
so I thought I faintly heard you there in the
Sorry.
background. So next item on the agenda, working groups. Excuse me. So you all saw on the agenda under finance, identify, schedule, and startup prep for fall town meeting. We're gonna have a lot of discussion about this tonight under a couple of areas. One will be under new business. But you're all aware that, we need to do a lease. We need to get money. We need to acquire money. So certainly one way is going to be going to town meeting and trying to acquire money. We need to prep for that. Jack did send out, I believe, all the committee members, a few days ago, even the end of last week, a schedule from, I think it was the fall town meeting.
Yeah, I sent a schedule for last year's meeting and the
Yeah,
premise that, whatever it is, the schedule will be approximately the same.
Right, that's what I meant. When I meant fall, I meant last fall, or maybe it was last spring, I don't know. But to your point, Jack, I'm looking at it right now. So the special town meeting 2023, Tuesday, for example, Tuesday, July 18th, select board vote to hold a special town meeting. So that was Tuesday, July 18th. So let's assume for a moment we're going to be doing that in the July timeframe again this year, getting ready for an October town meeting. So we need to work at, and I don't even know if I'll explain this correctly. And I'm probably going to ask Jack to hop in and help me with some details. But in order to go to town meeting, we're going to need to have visited, as we're doing, have visited other community senior centers, written up our evaluation of that, written up what we think is needed for the town, short-term, long-term. Have we looked at lease space? Have we looked at a space that we could build or purchase? All of these things put into a brief report. And then what's it worth financially? What do we need to ask for? So we need to be thinking along those lines of how do we put a very succinct package together that in a brief time we can convince town meeting attendees that our direction is viable, sustainable, and certainly worthwhile to the entire community. Is there a better way to have said that, Jack? Would you add something to it?
Well, call it a clarification, if you will.
Yep.
The discussion we have had among ourselves in terms of the fall town meeting is to have a warrant article potentially asking for an override to pay or for the lease or the beginning of a lease for the short-term center, and to pay for a feasibility study for the long-term center. So we are clearly not asking for a financial commitment to pay for a new permanent senior center. So it really is a short-term thing. And it interacts with some of the comments you've made in terms of visits and the requests for information that we would ask that the town to authorize so that we can actually identify whether in the near term there are any sites in town that are willing or interested in leasing space. So the clarification is the fall town meeting is really focused on short-term, not long-term, and feasibility study. The other thing, which is a little bit of an aside, but it's a useful data point. Josh Morse has confirmed with the town administrator's office that the cost of a feasibility study is about $150,000. That the success rate in asking for grants or even help from the earmark side of the house, the state house, is quite low because there's not a great interest in municipal buildings. But what we as a senior center committee are clearly working on to do is apply for grants for the feasibility study. So the real emphasis for a fall town meeting is lease financing or financing for a leased space. In whatever form that happens to be. Is it an override? Does it come out for something else? And that's the work we need to get done in order to have a defendable basis for that. And Jerry, while you mentioned, July as the select board deciding on a date, we have perhaps till mid to late August to actually get a warrant article drafted, visible, and yada, yada, yada.
You're right, Jack, and thank you very much. Thanks for adding some clarification to what I tried to convey. And one of the items to follow up on that we're going to cover on the new business talks a little bit about a report we need to make in the next couple of weeks to the select board. And in it, we're basically listing a lot of those things, what have we done? How are we doing? What's the direction? So we will very soon be prepping, getting that presentation ready, and that will be a precursor to what we'll be putting together for the town meeting. So we'll come back to that, and we'll discuss that a little more in a while. What I'd like to do now, if I could just change subjects for a few minutes, and I see Mary Ann Bassett is on here. Her microphone is muted, and Mary Ann and several others, and I'll let Mary Ann explain it, have visited a number of senior centers, community centers, life centers, whatever title one wants to use. And we've done that over the last couple of months with some, I would say, some very interesting findings as we've gone through these and had conversations with their directors or their support staff. Mary Ann, if you've got a few minutes, if you would not mind, could you?
Not at all.
Thanks,
I'm
Mary Ann.
actually pulling this, Linda Holt had put together a fantastic report. It's not totally finished yet. It's called Takeaways from Senior Center Tours. And that she has it up on our Drive site. We have gone to 8 senior centers so far. Most recently last week, Linda and Peg Brown visited Ayer and Groton. Ayer is in the process of locating a new space in town to build a senior center. They're currently in a 1,500 square foot space. Groton has a new, what they refer to as community type center that I think is about 4 or 5 years old. It looks quite lovely, and unfortunately I was not able to make that trip. I'm not going to go through the statistics that Linda has on here. As to, she has information on tax bills and tax base as a percentage of residential, and I don't feel able to talk to that. That's her information. Basically, what we have found in all of the centers we have gone to, every single center has more staffing than Maynard does. All of the centers that are developed as community centers also can become a revenue stream for the town because they are rented during off hours, especially if they have kitchen space. But the other side of that is that the big commercial kitchen spaces that have been included in some of the centers aren't in all cases utilized due to the licensing and training requirements that are out there. So, you know, that is something to look at. Many of them luckily get funding from generous donors. One thing we have found that I think I was a little surprised at is that most of them, especially the newer ones, are finding that they don't need specialized rooms. Like they don't need an arts and crafts room. They don't need that everything is flexible. As long as you have one room with a sink, you can set that up for craft classes. A gym with equipment is not necessary, but it's a great idea to have. There's no need to have like a dedicated computer space room. That's not necessary. One thing that most people agree on that is wonderful to have is usable outdoor space to do things like, you know, bocce or Tai Chi classes or something like that. The other takeaway we've been getting from a lot of them is that a active volunteer program is critical to cost containment and to client recruitment. That the more people you have within the community volunteering with the senior center, the more engagement you have across the board. And we've also found that some of the ones that are very successfully using space are co-locating with other town agencies like Veterans Affairs, social worker, other administrative agencies. And we want to schedule 2 more. We definitely want to schedule both Littleton and Harvard. Those have not been done yet. And I think we want to circle around and pull all of the information together and make a more, you know, comprehensive report after those are scheduled.
Thank you, Mary Ann.
You're welcome.
And let me just follow up a second, and we'll certainly open this up to questions because, you know, I'm certainly one on this committee who has had literally no involvement in any senior centers anywhere. So visiting these senior centers was all new to me, and I was astonished at some of what I've seen. And the one point that you made that seemed to come across loud and clear with every senior center is the number of volunteers they have. Some
Yes.
have huge numbers of volunteers. Now, a number of the volunteers, you know, people think of volunteering as, oh, I've got to get up, I've got to go to the senior center, I've got to go do something. But a lot of them, as we have found, they're home baking. They
Yeah.
might be making cakes or cupcakes or cookies to, you know, to bring to the senior center for a day that they're having some special event, or for the day that they're, excuse me, serving lunch, or to bring to somebody else's home, you know, somebody who's having a hard time at that point. They have seniors to go out and they do, you know, I won't say a wellness check, but it's sort of a wellness check. They'll go to somebody else's home just to see how they're doing.
Right.
So there's so many things the volunteers can do. And that was a message that's been hammered across to all of us who have visited these centers time and time again. So I think we need to be looking in that direction as we move this process forward at looking at more volunteers.
Yeah.
That's a big one. Any questions or comments from anybody? I hope.
Yeah, I have, Mary Ann, you might not have this, but in the visits that you've had, in the places where there's been lots of volunteers, is there a volunteer coordinator, or is that an expectation that the COA function will, excuse me, manage that?
It's varied between the different organizations handle their staffing differently, how they utilize it. In quite a few of the places we went to that have a very active volunteer program, they have a volunteer who runs the volunteer recruitment. Others have, that is one of the functions of one of the staff members. It seems like routinely, most councils on aging have an outreach coordinator who is responsible for working with, other agencies in town. And many times that outreach coordinator also handles volunteer scheduling, recruitment, as part of their position also.
Okay. And a second comment, Jerry, that might be premature, but the senior center committee has been moving with working groups. And I guess I'll pose it as a question, not to be decided tonight. Should the senior center visit working group eventually transition into putting the package together for what we would like to have in Maynard as our permanent solution? It's an early question in terms of the things we're working on and so forth, but I'm super happy Linda has put a report together, but we really do need to begin coalescing around this fits in Maynard, that doesn't fit in Maynard, here's the staffing requirements, here's the cost. So take all the work from the visits and begin to turn it into something. I don't have to decide tonight, but share the thought.
And well, and to your point, Jack, I think you phrased it as a question. I certainly would have phrased that more of as a suggestion. I think you're basically suggesting that this working group, which right now is Mary Ann, Mary Mitskovich, Linda Holt, myself, and Peg Brown, who is not a member of this committee, but has been arranging and active in every one of the visits. So she's as much a committee member as anybody else is. So yeah, I do think that this group could be the ones that are the driving force behind putting together a definition of what's really needed based on what we've seen. I think that's what you're looking at, right, Jack? What are we seeing? And we're going to cover that in a little teeny more detail when we get to new business, because some of that's going to have to happen by next Wednesday. Did I say that? Oh, my heavens, I did. Mary Ann, you didn't have any plans at all, did you, over the next 5 or 6 days? Oh, good.
Unfortunately, I do, but I suppose I can drag children along on them.
Sure. This is a 24/7 job on this committee. You know that. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Anyway, just kidding. No, but we need to just pull together some notes. That's all. But to Jack's point, that is extremely valuable and very viable information, and it's very pertinent when we go to town meeting and when we have a report that gets issued, we have a presentation, because people are going to ask, well, what is, because everybody's got a friend in some other town and they know somebody who goes to a senior center somewhere. And they have this. And so we can now state that, yes, we've looked at all of these and we're looking at we've learned from them. We've learned some things about what they're doing right, what they tell us that they've done wrong. How did they get their senior center, whether it be a lease or a building that they've acquired? How many years did it take them to do that? What mistakes did they make along that path? So we need to be able to, I think, be prepared to present that kind of information at a town meeting in brevity to some extent, but I think we have to have that knowledge.
I would
go
just,
ahead, Jack.
I want us to be careful about an October thing at that level of detail. Yes, we should try and pull it together, but it's October when the aging assessment study arrives. And I don't want to get into well, hey, we want to go in this direction, but the aging assessment says, something different. So we need to be a little bit careful of the timing of that.
Yep. No, I agree. And it's unfortunate that it's, the town meeting and the aging assessment are both coming out around about the same time. I think Amy had her hand up a few minutes ago. And I
She
didn't
did.
ignore her. I just kept talking.
That's okay. That's okay, Jerry.
Go ahead.
I think 2 meetings ago, it was mentioned that the drive of the visitation group is compiling, that the access to the drive was going to be shared, distributed to all of us. And I'm just thinking, did we get that? Was that link shared or that information shared so we could look at the information in the drive on these visitations?
You know,
That's-
that's something I need to do, and I tried to do it and it didn't work.
Okay.
And I will get with my technical
fine.
people and get that done this week.
Okay, great.
So,
And the technical people would be children or grandchildren? Would that be the? that's-
absolutely.
Yeah, that's usually how we do it. Yeah, okay. That
Mhm.
sounds like a plan. Good, because I did not look either. So I have not looked on the drive. I know Linda set it up and I know she has all that information there. I have not viewed it and I'm remiss in
Yeah.
doing that. I will take care of it. But yeah, we do need to get it so the full committee has access to all of that. Yeah,
Yep.
not trying to hide anything from anybody. Good. Any other questions on the visiting of other senators?
Yeah, one more.
Go for it.
Mary Ann, you mentioned, I think 8, there's 2 more. Are there any, how many are we planning on visiting? Is there a cutoff? Are there additional ones that have been sort
The two we were planning on visiting are Littleton and Harvard. Littleton, because it's a town, similar population, similar senior population. And they are in the process of building a new senior center and have gone through a very extensive process to do so. They have taken down quite a bit of the information that was on their website, but they did have a very, very informative website going through the whole process. And their process started for a permanent solution after they finished their assessment through the aging assessment. And we were one of the towns that they were matched up with as part of the aging assessment. So that's why we were looking at Littleton. Harvard was recommended to go to, and I'm not sure why. That was something that Peg and Linda had sent to me, and I don't know the background on why that specifically was suggested. But the ones that we've gone to so far have been basically towns that have a similar population, not necessarily a similar demographic, because we've gone to Wayland and Lincoln. And so we're looking at generally in the area and what's available.
Yep, my question was, there's been a total of, after you do Wayland and Littleton, you're up to about 10 or something like that?
Yes.
So is there are we gonna do 11 or 12 or 15, or is the 10 enough? Is there any discussion of that?
There hasn't been, and we've been emailing back and forth. We're planning on getting together within the next week or so, trying to decide exactly where we need to go next.
Super.
Okay.
Yeah, there'll probably be a few more, but not too many. I think
Yeah.
we're getting the information we're getting. And after this gets boiled down, we take a look at it, and we'll see if there's any outliers and is there anything else that we absolutely have to go see if there's information that we need. But I'm very encouraged by what's already been seen and the data that's been collected. I think it's going to be invaluable moving us forward. The next one, real estate review. So we have an RFI, request for information, that Josh Morse had put together for us. And that has been submitted to Town Hall. That now needs to go before the Select Board for their approval and any questions or details they might have in it. And then we would need to get that out. That needs to be advertised, and we will also via email hand deliver it to certain individuals within the town Maynard Crossing, Millen, Maine, the paper store, for 3 locations that have some viability. So we want to make sure we hear from them officially. Now, again, the RFI is, as it suggests, request for information. So it's not a bid, it's not a legal bid document. We're just officially asking for information on space availability, timing of space. How would somebody do a lease? Would they do a 1-year, a 3-year, 3-year renewable, 5-year with 1-year renewables? Don't know. That's what we're looking for. So that we can tell what we're going to be able to do for our short-term needs within the town. So we're awaiting that RFI to get officially blessed by the select board. And right now, in email back and forth with Greg today, that should be on the June 18th, the select board meeting agenda. Any questions on the RFI? If anybody has seen it already, I think it was sent out to everybody. The full committee has had a copy of the RFI.
Well, it's what we voted on at the last meeting.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty straightforward. It's nothing, excuse me, nothing strange about it. Just looking for information, and we're just officially asking to send us that information. The FAQ, frequently asked questions, I don't believe, and again, maybe Deb, you're on. I don't think there's any update on the frequently asked questions. I can't see you. I see you're muted. I don't think there's any update on, I didn't go in.
No,
and look
there
at
is,
them.
Jerry,
Go ahead.
there is no update. At this point, we have answered all the questions that people have sent to us. And
Uh,
You muted yourself, Deb.
you muted yourself, Deb. Yeah.
it's too bad I can't do that at other times, right? No, but I sent that out to other people on the social network and said that if they need any questions answered, just let us know. And as they come in, if any more come in, because I think we've had 28 or 29 put on the website, that we will get the answers to the questions. And that's it.
Perfect. Excellent. Thank you, Deb. Appreciate that.
Okay.
Any other questions on frequently asked questions? Sounds a bit redundant. For the next one, new business. We actually do have some new business, and there may be new business that others have, but I'm gonna, since I'm chairing this, I'll throw out the first piece of new business, which I think was sent to everybody today. And Jack so very nicely put together the document for discussion. Draft structure of the Senior Center Committee report to the Select Board. This will be on June 18th. So you all should have received that today. I don't know who had time to open the mail, to look at it. I know everybody doesn't sit by their computer just waiting for that next email to come in, but so several things on here. First item, that was listed, the charter was approved. This was approved. The committee was formed. The leadership and the membership. So we talk about that. And these are just all, introductory pieces to a report that will be submitted to the select board no later than next Wednesday, which is the 12th. We have to get it in for official presentation on the 18th. So we'd be listing the first, the meeting of the first date of the first meeting, number of meetings we've had, what the schedule looks like. Then we get into a few things dealing with what we just went through now. reference documents through the working groups. So, relative material, what about all that material that we went over when we first began a few months ago? All that historical data that has been, collected and formatted and formulated and, regurgitated multiple times over the years. We need to have that not completely listed, but somewhat listed so that the select board and others attending select board meeting have a good understanding of this isn't a committee that just began and started from ground zero. This is a committee that began, but it's made up of most of the members are members of other senior center type organizations within the town and have been working on these issues for many years, many. And we need to cover that. The frequently asked questions section. We need to highlight some of those frequently asked questions. What are some of the things people are asking? Why are they asking them? Are the answers we've given, are they substantial? Are they good? Could they be better? I don't know, but we need to be able to put that out and say, this is what we've done. And we're looking for the select board to agree with us, push back, make, constructive suggestions, constructive criticisms. That's what we're looking for. Because we've been working in a direction that we have felt has been the proper direction. And I think that it is, and I think everybody on this committee believes we're going in the right direction. And if somebody doesn't, they need to be able to speak up and we'll see if we can't address that issue. The next item, the third item in this list of things to cover under working groups is financing. Examine and evaluate options, short-term lease options, cost of feasibility study, and then a long-term solution. What is it? What are some of the costs? Real estate options, short and long-term. RFI has been drafted. It should be approved at the next meeting. I don't see any reason why select board would not approve it. Seeking available space in Maynard for lease. Draft template proposed to facilitate the evaluation and the ranking of sites. So we've had a template that we've used for the visits to other senior centers, and that has worked out pretty well because we're looking at each senior center and asking a lot of the very same questions and noting items in the exact same category. So we're comparing one center to the next to the next. So we should be able to answer questions pretty factually because we have collected the data in a logical format. And I think that it's been collected and cataloged that way. I think that's what's going to help us. And sticking to the real estate options and moving to the senior center tours. So if you take a look at the real estate options, we get a short-term and long-term. The senior center tours are going to help us develop what our short-term, I won't exactly say the space needs. We know we need more space than we have today. But what the space requirements might need to be in the short term versus what they need to be in the long term. Because also remember last meeting, we had voted on going with the MACAL, Maynard Center for Active Living, so we could differentiate senior center from Center for Active Living. So the Center for Active Living is the longer term. The senior center is the short term. We're not looking to lease a space to develop a huge community center for the next 5 to 7 years. We need a senior center that is effective, it's manageable, it's hopefully cost effective, and it allows us and allows the seniors to be able to do and get the services that they feel they need. In the long term, I think we all agreed at the last meeting. It would be easier to sell the entire concept if we had something that looked more like Maynard Center for Active Living, rather than just a Maynard Senior Center. So I think I just saw, I think yesterday in the news, speaking to the word senior center, they just changed the title, I think in Boston, of the person in charge of what they call elderly affairs, I think. They've changed it to something else now because it sort of denoted, well, that's just for the elderly. And so there's a bit of a stigma sometimes to labels these days. So this way here, the long term, if we can look towards Center for Active Living, that makes it a much broader approach and hopefully more saleable. Describe the current thinking, warrant article for town meeting. We need to kind of talk briefly about that in the report that we do on June 18th and identify what our challenges and advocate urgency. How can we engage the select board? So again, Jack put this together this morning and I thanked him and I greatly appreciate what he did. As a group, as a full committee, we need to look at this. You all have a copy of it. I think that moving this forward, I'm not sure who has to be directly involved in putting this together to be done by next Wednesday and submitted. I'll take suggestions on who might think of the most expeditious way to do this. I see Jack has unmuted himself again. Not to pick on you, Jack, but you may have a good suggestion.
Well, I suddenly realized as we were going through this, that there is an item missing, and that's the aging assessment.
Yeah.
That needs to be a visible mention as we engage with the select board. And the other thing, it's a bit repetitive, but the invitation to go to the select board really was triggered by the request to have through the town administrator to get select board guidance on the request for information.
Mm-hmm.
And what Greg Johnson has done is basically said, okay, sure, but let's take the opportunity to actually make a report, have a conversation with the select board. So in the end, it's an opportunity to share what we have done while we ask for their approval on the going forward posting the RFI. But the aging assessment thing is the at least one thing that I've realized is missing. And my purpose in putting this together to all of the committee members, are there other things you think should be added to this list or things that should be removed? So let's open that kind of conversation.
Oh, don't everybody raise your hand and speak out. The noise is deafening. Let me ask one question first. Amy, I do have one question. I think you told us this before and I made note of it, but I don't remember. The aging assessment.
Mhm.
Let's assume we have the October town meeting will be second week in October, I'm guessing, somewhere around that. Do we, I think you had indicated maybe sometime in September, we'd have some indication of the aging assessment information. Will we get some information so we've got a bit of?
So I don't, yeah, they did not give me a sense of who would have access to the draft when the draft was available. My sense was, first conversation regarding this, that it could be the end of August, beginning of September, that a draft could be reviewed. And I'm not sure by whom. They decide, how that should be reviewed and by whom. But that would give an indication of, what some of the outcomes of the survey were, the voices that were heard, so that, that would be helpful. So I don't know definitively, but then it goes from the draft to setting up formal presentation where they will be presenting the findings, and I don't know where that would be in the month of October, but the month of October is the target for the public presentation and the availability of the complete study. So I'm not going to really. And as soon as I get any indication from UMass what the next steps are, of course, I'm going to update this group, my board, etc.
Jerry, what I would suggest in terms of, select board in a couple of weeks is not, hey, we're gonna get this by October. But, and Amy, I think you have most of the details, the aging assessment study, there were X focus groups or X surveys, just so that there's an awareness of these surveys have been completed, the focus groups have been completed, and now they're off doing their analysis and so forth. And one of the reasons that there should be some comment that reflects what you literally just said, that, you won't have anything till October, or you might get something as a note in September, is I still get a sense in looking at select board minutes and so forth, there's this occasion, well, we should wait until the aging assessment is here. I don't think we have the luxury of waiting, so I would be more focused on this is the progress that has been made. Number of surveys, focus group meetings, and just, as you've said, even at the last meeting, Amy, they are now doing the analysis, and we will have, first, whatever it is in September or something like that.
Yeah, you're right, Jack. And I do think, and as soon as we can get some of this information, so I think Amy has some, we know how many focus groups were set up and, what meetings may have been
Yeah.
held in the town. Go ahead, Amy.
Yeah, so it sounds like I'm getting a sense of, so that, I don't know if someone's putting together a PowerPoint and that the people that have done these, where the yellow is, under reference documents, financing frequently asked questions, if people are providing information for someone to throw into the PowerPoint, I certainly can provide what you need to throw into the PowerPoint regarding the UMass study, the detail that you're asking for, Jack. And I can get that to you. Whoever's going to be doing this, pulling the report together, I will get that UMass information to you. The outline of what has been done.
Okay.
Perfect,
Okay?
perfect. Yes, Amy. Thank
You
very
just
much.
tell me who to forward it to. I mean, I can forward it to all of you, and then whoever's gonna compile everything.
Yeah, you can certainly do that. Send it to everybody and, I don't know who's gonna do all the compiling. I will be a part of that, and there'll be probably 2 or 3 other people will be a part of that also. We don't want to involve everybody, but we want input from everybody. If you've got input, if there's something that you think should be stated, should be in there, that you feel strongly that the select board needs to know on June 18th, send me a note, let me know. Let me know.
May I
Yeah.
jump in for a second, Jerry?
Go ahead, Chris, yes.
One of the things that the select board, some members of the select board who do not have the benefit of listening to all these conversations and being part of some of these groups, subgroups of this committee, someone's gonna have to explain to the select board why we're gonna do something or why we're being asked to do something prior to the release, potentially prior to the release of the report. Because if everybody remembers, the select board was thrashed publicly and loudly on several occasions because some of us and some of the members were a little reluctant to spend the money on the report at the time and go find the money and all that stuff. So someone might have a little bit of a selling job to do to convince the other 4 members of the board that we should now move forward without the results of that report, because we were beat up pretty good about
Yeah.
the study, in the beginning, and maybe rightfully so even, but you're gonna have to, someone's gonna have to do a pretty good sell job. And I don't mind putting my 2 cents in, because I've been part of these conversations and I understand what the timeframes are and what this group is doing. So I don't mind, trying to help in that regard, but Some of my fellow board members are a little bit different in how they remember things and how they react to things. So that's just something to keep in mind for, to the 18th. I don't think it might not be any problem at all. It might, maybe they forgot, but a couple of those folks have long memories.
Yes,
And it may
Yes.
take some convincing, and I understand exactly what you guys are saying, and I understand why I don't know if it's, the chicken before the egg or the carrot before the horse or any of that stuff. I don't think it's one of those situations, but I understand from being part of these conversations why there's a need and a desire and a want to get ahead of it and get it ready for the special town meeting whenever we schedule that. Now, if they tell us that, if they had to tell us that the report is gonna be definitely in August, certainly we can look, October, we can maybe narrow that down a little bit at some point. We can certainly work to schedule the special town meeting into a little bit later time slot at the beginning of November, a week before Thanksgiving type of thing, to push it back a little bit so that, all the voices can be heard, and then if we have to amend an article or change anything that, is already gonna go before the town meeting, we can do that. We'll have a little time to do that, but certainly that would be that would be one consideration if that's what some people want to see is the report before they react. I think that would be something we could probably work out to push the town meeting back into a different time frame. There's nothing that says when it has to be, but so we can move it to accommodate, what obviously is a important issue. That's all.
I like that idea. Really like that idea, Chris, because I didn't know that, the select board actually would even consider doing something like that. But you're right, and I know personally, I hear you loud and clear that select board, some members may wonder, why are we pushing this to the town meeting when we don't have the study back yet from UMass? I don't think the UMass study is going to say, one, that we have less seniors than we know we have. I don't think they're going to say we don't need a larger space than we sit in right now. So we know we need more space. We know roughly how many seniors we have in town. So there's some of these things that are facts, that are known facts. We know what other towns are doing. Now, they're going to come back with some, I think, very special answers to questions that were posed, but I don't know that it's going to change the need. So pushing it out.
I agree
would
with
be
you
good.
100%, and I'll be very surprised if outside of some, periphery minutia type of details that they see in their, when they're constantly doing these things, some of those things that they see, they're outside. I think we might see some of that. I agree 100%. I don't think that they're going to tell Amy or any of the one else on this Zoom call tonight. I don't think they're going to tell any of us anything we don't know, as far as, what we need,
Yeah.
what needs to be for size. I think it's gonna be some detailed stuff, like maybe you should consider doing this when you do get to where you're at, and, it might talk about staff numbers, like someone alluded to earlier, other places definitely have more staff than us, and it might get to some of those type of details. But I don't think it's gonna tell us anything we don't know as far as how many people we can expect, what our population is gonna look like in 5 or 10 years, and what we need. I don't think we're gonna learn anything new other than
No.
some details.
No, and you all of you who qualified, you all did the survey, correct?
Yes,
Okay, good. So you know what the categories are and what the information. So one thing UMass did say was that, I don't know if I think I answered this question already because Jack asked, but with all three focus groups, the common theme was the concerns about the current space and the need for a space that was sufficient with better access. And I also had a comment too from who I'm working with, Mary Krebs from UMass, that the same concerns came from some stakeholders too. So I think, you're absolutely correct, Jerry, that's sort of you know, a known, a given.
All right, Gary,
Jerry,
ahead.
as I'm doing the mental gymnastics about the dates and stuff in the fall, you can't think of anything that has to do with the Green Meadow that would necessitate any type of timing vote or anything on from us, is it?
Off, I'd have to look in the morning, but offhand, I cannot think of anything, but I wasn't thinking in that direction when I came to this meeting tonight. But I don't
mean-
think so, no.
Cause I think
No.
that's, there's a lot of issues. And we'll get to some of those like next Wednesday when we do a full board meeting about some of them. But that's the only thing like in my mind that's going on in town right now that has deadlines attached to it and certain types of votes. And I'm just wondering, I just want to make sure before I go down that road that there's nothing that we're gonna interfere with by pushing it back.
I'll look up the schedule. I'll check on that tomorrow. I'll have an answer tomorrow morning. But I don't offhand, I cannot think of anything that we have got from a Green Meadow standpoint that has got to get to town meeting
Yeah.
for a vote that would necessitate it being in October versus, let's say, early November or something. I don't see that. But I'll check.
all right, Jerry.
Thank you.
Go, Jack.
What Chris has triggered is, as I listen to it, is the problem we have had since the beginning is being as clear as we can what is short-term versus long-term.
Yep.
And we're gonna have to think about how during our presentation, we address that, because the primary thing for a fall town meeting is the lease. The feasibility study is where there's potentially some interaction with what the aging assessment thing might bring in. And that's, I think, where the potential of confusion is. I heard Chris's remark about, hey, the 35K and all the rest of the stuff. So we are going to have to do a little bit of work keeping in our communications short-term versus long-term.
So I was talking to Greg about this, Jack, in some of the emails that have gone back and forth over the past couple of days have kind of triggered the conversation. And one of the things is one of the concerns that are out there, right, about a lease is we have to know, like, we'll have to know in order to create an article, you have to have a dollar amount for what it is, an actual dollar amount for what it is, and a funding sources, which that will be the least of our worries. But we have to have something that suggests the actual amount so that we meet the requirements of the state in saying we have a lease that we want to enter into. Here's the lease, here's the dollar amount, and here's the funding source. So that's a little bit of that's going to be a little bit of a tricky spot. We'll have to find a lease and a dollar amount to go look for. And I understand the RFI or an RFP for a feasibility study that'll be easy because we know, more or less what that amount is, but do we know more or less what a lease is? And, I think when it's a lease, I think it has to be, by procurement law, to use a Greg Johnson term, when you start talking about procurement law, there has to be a lease. Like, it just can't be a number for a lease. I think there has to be a lease. So I wonder if we can, maybe talk to town council or somebody. I'll talk to Greg about it and find a way to ask for a certain amount of money that may necessarily not be attached to a lease we have in hand, but to, go somewhere for that purpose. I don't know how that works, but that's kind of a concern that's kind of developed, in the conversations with Greg over the last week or so, like how that's going to work, where, what's the amount and what's the amount, oh, by the way, where's the lease? So I think that's, if we have to get creative and call it something a little different to allow it to, be funded somehow.
You're correct, and that was the point we kept on with the citizens petition, because there was not an exact amount, which is what the Department of Revenue requires.
Yeah.
The other part is a lease is multi-year.
Mhm.
And how you put that up there in terms of, okay, I want an override, for lack of a better thing, that's gonna go for 5 to 7 years. That literally may not be possible. I don't know.
Yeah, we've talked about that too. Like, what's the, this at least might cover this period of time. What's
Mhm.
2026, what's 2027? What's gonna cover those years until we get into a permanent thing where now it becomes a fixed number and we know what it is. And we can, debt exclude it or override it or whatever that is. I don't know, but that's a big concern too, is how does Greg and the town finance group, how do we all work with them and get that so that we have a source for the funding for this year after year, and where is that coming from? That's the problem. But the first thing is that we, I really don't think that the 18th is gonna be a problem. I don't think that anyone, is really gonna, those guys aren't that brave that they're gonna stand up and put their chest out about the study, but they might. So it's a concern, but the lease could be the tricky part, how we creatively get to the point where we can fund something that we don't have in front of us.
Yep.
Kind of like my wife says, I need some money. Well, what for? Because I need it. I lose that one all the time too. So maybe the town will get lucky and I'll lose that one, but that question is gonna come up. So I don't know. I think it's gonna take a creative solution rather than a known solution to us as we sit here tonight. And,
Yeah.
So it's just some weird money thoughts. I don't know why I have them.
Well, we need to identify the creative solution person.
Yes, yes. No, those are good, those are excellent points, Chris. Because we can do everything and do everything right
Yeah.
and we'll fail.
And I, as the person who sits on the board for now in that middle seat, I don't see anything that comes from this group that I wouldn't endorse, or that I can't imagine anybody else not endorsing, I would imagine everything would be, approved and accepted and unanimously across the board. It's just that one thing gets to be,
Yeah, how do we pay for it?
that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. Yep. So,
Oh, minor
Alright.
detail.
but
You
we'll
just
figure that
worry.
out, Jack. We'll find some creative people, Jack.
Okay,
Listen, we're building a fire station, a school, and all these other things. We should be able to figure this out too.
At
So,
least with the school, MSBA, the state's paying 65% of it.
yeah,
Holy
it's
smokes.
crazy.
That's
Crazy. My
pretty
daughter
damn
comes home
nice.
my daughter comes home every day and tells me something new. She found out about her new classroom or whatever she's got. She told me today she can turn the heat up 2 degrees or down 2 degrees or something. Like,
Nice,
yay.
nice.
She's thrilled. They all
Yeah,
are. But
yeah.
no, we'll figure it out, Jack. But it just that's the only concern, really.
No, you're right, Chris, and please, in all of our meetings, please remind all of us of that again and again, because this is the part that could croak us. And we can do everything right, and if we can't come up with a creative way to figure out the money, it's all for naught in a sense.
Yeah, no,
So
we can't have that.
no. Too many people, too much time. And there's been how many committees so far, all these years, and how many working groups and subgroups? And we did a study back in 2012, 2013, that report. Here we are now, 11 years down the road. We're back at it again with the hopes of moving forward. And the money is the issue. Well, there might be a huge benefactor somewhere in town. So never mind finding a person with a creative financial mind. We need to find a person with a lot of extra money that they would like to donate to the town for a new senior center. That's what we need to look for.
again,
I don't see it. What was that again, Jack?
one of the things Mary Ann mentioned in the visits, that a number of the senior centers, wherever they went, apparently have we're able to attract major donors. If there's any extra information that can be, extricated, how did you find them? Are they local people? Was there a foundation someplace? Would be really useful.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, we can certainly find that out. And I did hear it a few times that there were major donors that put money up because they felt they felt a need. They felt a need to assist the seniors. So good. Any other discussion on either what Chris brought up, the financial chess game we're going to have to play, or anything else that you might have for comment on under our new business, the discussion of the June 18th select board meeting? If you think of
Well,
things, go ahead, Jack.
Jerry copied me on the note from Greg Johnson for the 18th. Greg is basically, okay, 5 minutes presentation, 10 or 15 minutes of discussion. So as we put this together, we can always push that envelope a little bit, but we do need to be succinct.
Mm-hmm. No, exactly. So we need to collect a pile of data and then extricate just the important factors that we need to present so that we get the message across under the various categories. You're right. So any input that anybody on this committee who's attending tonight might have, please certainly for either send to everybody. Well, some people don't like that with the open meeting law. Send it to me if you want. That's fine. Don't have to copy everybody. Then we can stay within bounds and not get in too much trouble. Is there any other new business? I don't see any hands. I don't hear any yelling or screaming. I would entertain public comments, but I do not see anybody who's not a committee member dialed in right now. We have 9 participants, all committee members. So I would say there are no public comments at this point. I would certainly entertain a motion to adjourn.
One thing,
Go-
Jerry,
Oh, next meeting. Go ahead.
well, even before that,
Yep.
assuming Lindsay has been the rep from the capital planning committee, and with her election to the select board, do we have to take an action item to request for the capital planning committee to replace her? Or will she continue? Or it's nothing we need to do tonight, but it's just something that I think it's really important to have a continuation of capital planning committee
Yep.
representation. So just
Okay.
make a note of it.
I just did. Perfect. Please.
And
I'm trying
Jerry,
to write. Go ahead.
I found out the new name of the Office of Elders Affairs. It's going to be Executive Office of Aging and Independence.
Oh, wow.
So
Aging.
like our aging study.
Okay. Aging and independence.
Yes.
So they think that stating it that way, it incorporates a broader spectrum of age groups versus elderly. It has a connotation that it's you're old. You're not in your 50s. No, that's basically it. And but thank you for looking that up. But I know I saw it the other day and I couldn't think of what the title was. Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's capital. Next meeting, I did not, and I meant to do this before the meeting. Let me pull up my calendar. Oops. That's the calculator. That's not the calendar. Where did I put the calendar?
Is 20th?
I think it's the 20th.
I think you're right.
6 and 14 is 20.
Oh, a math major too.
Yeah.
Wow. So the next one we think is 6, 20. And that will be a remote. I think, last meeting we voted, I believe, to have, and I don't have it right in front of me, 3 remote and then 1, hybrid. So if we take a look at 6/20, what is the next one after that? If somebody's got a calendar up and I can see what 2 weeks after 6/20 would be.
4th of July.
Yeah, right, we have fireworks that night too. All right, so we won't do the 4th of July. Would we do the week after? It doesn't matter to me. It's up to what consensus might be.
So that would be the 11th.
So that'd be 7/11. Possibly to 7/11, not the local store, but the 7/11 sound appropriate for the July meeting, at least from everybody in
Yep.
attendance here.
Mhm.
Yep.
And what would, Deb, since you got the calendar out, what would 2 weeks after that be?
25th.
25th.
The 5th,
25th.
The 7/25 sound okay?
Yep.
So we're remote tonight, we're remote on 6/20, we're remote on 7/11, and we'll be hybrid on 7/25, is that right?
Correct.
Because I wanted to, the reason I'm doing this now, because I wanted to capture this information in the minutes so that everybody, has some advance notice and can mark their calendars. People are on vacation, they're traveling, they're doing whatever, but at least people know what the dates are. And around the 4th of July was the one that I was most concerned about. Perfect. I think we've got a path forward with the dates.
Okay.
If there are no other issues, I would certainly entertain a motion to adjourn if people would desire.
I make a motion to adjourn the meeting at 8:12.
8/12. Is there a second?
Second,
Thank you, Amy. Mary Ann. Okay, via roll call. Paul,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Jack,
Yep.
Mary Ann,
yes?
Deb.
Yes.
I'm a yes. Josh is not here. Dan's not here. Amy,
Yes.
Stephanie,
Yes, sir.
thank you. And Krista Silva, would you like to adjourn?
Sure.
Oh, okay. Sounds like a plan. All right, folks. Thank you
Thanks,
very
good
much.
night.
It was a good meeting tonight.